BT23 brings in the all-new archetype of the Hudiemon trait, which is based off of the cyber sleuth video game Hackers Memory, hence the set name being called Hackers Slumber. It features the main characters of Erika, Keisuke, Chitose, and Ryuji from the video game, and the whole idea of the deck is to go into your Hudiemon, which is your level 4 boss monster. By attacking with it, you get to play out your Tamers for free, and then with Chitose, you get to play out another body so that you can alliance 2 checks at a time. The second part of the combo is to DNA into your Shakumon so that you reset all your inherit effects, and then afterwards you use your BT22 CS rookies to regress back into Hudiemon, repeating the same when attacking combo over and over until your opponent is out of all their security as you finish them off. The deck can search with a ton of draw power to help you set up the pieces that you need, and there's even times that you can execute this loop combo as soon as it hits its second turn. We have already seen this deck top and win tournaments left and right, and there's been a lot of discussion within the community of just how insane this loop combo really is. There are 2 ways to go about this build. One is the more aggressive approach where you're trying to just OTK your opponents as soon as possible, which is the one I prefer playing. There is the other one which focuses more on Ryuji alongside with the Hudiemon trait option cards to remove and board control on your opponent's side, which you can still accomplish a potential explosive turn later on. I will also show you guys the crazy plays that this deck can make later in the combo section. But first, let's begin talking about the deck profile with the Digi cards, starting with the 4 copies of the Yokomon from BT23. It is the main source of your draw power as you attack with any of your Digimon that has CS trait, which is everything in your deck. For the main BT22 rookies that I'm playing in the deck are the 4 copies of Terriermon and 2 copies of Palmon from BT22. The main reason of including these CS rookies is to utilize their inherit effects so that we can regress our Shakumon back underneath into the Hudiemon in order to continue looping. At the same time, we get to draw cards for doing that. And with Terriermon, we get to establish a Tamer early. And as for Palmon, we get to gain memory to make even more plays. Next, I'm running 3 copies of the BT23 Katsumon, which is our main searcher of the deck, which can help us find anything that is Hudiemon in its trait, as well as any Tamer option card that has CS trait as well, which we're always constantly getting 2 hits off this card, which is incredibly valuable. It has the inherit effect of when attacking, we get to play out a 5 cost or lower Hudiemon trait Digimon from our hand for free. However, the Digimon that this effect plays out cannot Digivolve and is deleted at the end of opponent's turn. And that stipulation isn't much of a problem for this deck because normally we're attacking with our level 4s that have Alliance, and just by having that extra body, we can suspend it together for additional checks. Besides, once we're able to execute that combo, our intention is to pretty much win that turn anyways. Next, I typed in 1 copy of the BT23 Betamon just to give us a little bit of recursion to grab anything that we need from the trash that is CS trait, and with its inherit effect is exactly the same as Gatsumon. As for the Wormmon from BT23, I'm currently taking 1 copy of that because it allows us at the starter main to tuck a Erika that we have present on the board underneath its sources so that we can then Digivolve into a Hudiemon from our trash or hand with the reduced cost of 2. Overall, this just gives us additional access into Hudiemon in the mid or late game stages if there's one in the trash, and most importantly, it lets us Digivolve for the reduction cost so that we can still keep our turn in order to execute that same combo if we ever need to, aside from just Digivolving straight for 4 memory on top of our regular CS level 3s. And with its inherit effect to give us additional DP buff is always great to ensure that we can safely swing into the opponent's security. That's it for all our level 3s. Now let's talk about level 4s, which you guys are going to notice this is going to be the largest portion of the deck with more ratios than usual. That is because we just want to flood the board with a ton of them, and let's begin with the boss monster of the deck, which is Hudiemon itself, which you certainly want to be running 4 copies of. You normally want to Digivolve this for 4 costs on top of your level 3 CS trait Digimon, which is our entire rookie lineup, and by doing so, when you get into it, this is where you can play out a 5 cost or lower CS trait card that is a Tamer or Digimon for free. Afterwards, you get to reduce one of your opponent's Digimon's DP by 3,000 for every Hudiemon trait Digimon you have on the board. The main line of combo is to play out your Chitose, which is going to play out another level 4 body onto your board so that you can alliance with 2 checks. As you attack with Hudiemon, you want to return one of your CS trait Tamers back to your hand, which is going to be the Chitose, so that you can activate the Hudiemon's on play effect, which is exactly the same as its when Digivolving effect once again. With that, you'll play the exact same Chitose to play out another level 4 body to flood the board. By having multiple level 4s, that is where you can start DNA Digivolving into your level 5s. But as we continue for the other level 4s, I'm also running 4 copies of the Seedramon from BT23. Itself also has Alliance, but you mainly play this out with Chitose's effect because you want to alliance it together with Hudiemon's effect. And once this card is suspended, that is how you get to draw a card. And speaking of drawing as many cards as possible, that is also exactly the same reason why I'm running 4 copies of the Digimon from BT23, which is another target that you get to play out off of Chitose, and also providing you barrier. And it's really important to have that keyword within your stack because your Hudiemon normally will be checking into the opponent's security with 12k, which means it is still very susceptible to be deleted by battle with anything that is level 6 and beyond. Once your Hudiemon is gone and you don't have enough memory to get into another one in the same turn, your loop combo basically stops. And to round off for the rest of the level 4s, I'm running 3 copies of Ankylomon just to give us further DP reduction. Both Angemon and Ankylomon have on-play effects to let us DNA Digivolve into a Shakumon, which is generally nice if we ever need to go for some early control plays. And since we're talking about Shakumon, that wraps up for our level 4s as we transition into our level 5s, which I'm running 4 copies of the one from BT23. You normally DNA Digivolve into this card with 2 level 4s, one being yellow and the other being black or blue. When you Digivolve into it, you get to taunt one of your opponent's Digimon. And if you DNA Digivolve, you also get to de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. Keep in mind, both effects of taunting and de-Digivolving can be targeted to your opponent's separate Digimon. But that's not all, because it also has a floating ability, because when it will leave the battle area except by your effects, you get to play out a level 4 or lower back from your sources for free, which can be any of your CS trait Digimon that you DNA Digivolve to begin with. That way you can utilize their on-play effects again to potentially disrupt your opponents too. And like I mentioned before, once you DNA Digivolve, all your inherent effects reset within the stack so that you can utilize the BT22 rookies to regress your Shakumon back to the bottom of the source and then turn it back into a Hudiemon, which is the very top stack. And with that, you now have a unsuspended Hudiemon that is ready to attack once again. As for the secondary level 5 DNA target, I'm currently running 2 copies of the BT16 Pyrodramon, and it's actually crazy to me to even think about that the most important piece of the Imperiodramon deck makes its way into this archetype. That is because this deck does play enough blue and green Digimon to help you get into it. One important thing to keep in mind is that this card is not a CS trait, so you'll never be able to regress back into a level 4, but mainly the intention of getting into it is to give you the 2 additional swings to help you finish games even faster. As a matter of fact, as long as you have Angemon within the stack, you get to give it barrier, which is essentially almost the same as jamming. That's it for all of our level 5s. Now let's talk about level 6s, which I'm running 2 copies of Venusmon. That is mainly to floodgate against your opponents to lock them out for an entire turn with a blanket security attack -1 effect, and that is whenever if you're not able to pull off the OTK combo just yet, and after DNA Digivolving into Shakumon, you can always go into this card to buy yourself an additional turn and then go for the game-winning play the next. And that sums up for all of our Digimon, and now let's talk about our Tamers, starting with the 4 copies of Chitose, which I think is the most important Tamer of the deck that you want to see in your hand as soon as possible. Just like how I talked about the combo loop line, you mainly want to play it out off of Hudiemon's effect to play out another body, and additionally when you alliance, you also get to suspend this Tamer to further DP reduce your opponent's Digimon by another 3000. As for the other Hudie trait Tamers, I'm also running 2 copies of Erica just to give us additional memory at the start of main, and also giving us that opportunity to tuck it underneath Wormmon to Digivolve into a Hudiemon. That way, with its inherent effect, we get to give another instance of alliance into Hudiemon so that we can suspend 2 other Digimon for even bigger checks with higher DP. It has the end of turn effect. By suspending this Tamer, we can return 1 CS trait Digimon back to our hand, and then we get to play out a rookie in raising, ready to go for the next turn. There are situations where we're not able to go for the loop OTK combo in that turn. That way we can return our Hudiemon back to our hand and set up a rookie which is ready to go in the next turn to keep our board clear from the opponent gaining any additional memory with their Tamer effects or even interacting with our board. Think of it as more of a preemptive measure to ensure that we have a Hudiemon in our hand that we can get into in the following turn. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Keisuke, which is the Hudie trait's memory setter, and also providing us additional DP buffs to ensure that our Hudiemon gets a little bit stronger than usual to go for safety checks. Otherwise, it has a similar end of turn effect to Erica by bouncing one of our CS trait Digimon back to our hand. Instead of playing out a Digimon in breeding area, we get to play out another Tamer for free. And speaking of playing out our Tamers for free, that is also why I included the 3 copies of the BT22 Mirai in order to do that with our starter main phase effect, but also give us additional draw power in the early stages. That's it for all of our Tamers. Now let's talk about our option cards, which I'm running 4 copies of Kurumi Detective Agency, which is another main searcher of the deck to help us grab anything that is CS trait, which is everything within our deck, and also ultimately utilizing as it's the in-archetype memory boost to help us gain 2 memory if we need to. And then lastly, to round off the rest of option cards, I also teched in 1 copy of HPD. Since this is a green based deck after all, we can easily utilize it to help us Digivolve up, ideally into a Hudiemon for absolutely 0 cost. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include, such as the BT23 Tentomon, which helps you reduce your Digivolution costs as you try to get into your Hudiemon for 3 instead of a 4. Instead of Ankylomon as your black DNA target, which is also a blocker, you can also choose to opt in for Golemon, which is red and black itself, which also has Alliance and blocker. And the nice thing about this card is that whenever it suspends, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon that's 4000 DP or less, meaning this effect can trigger whenever you attack with Alliance together with it, or even block. But the only downside is that you cannot attack into your opponent's Digimon with this card. The other reason of including this card is to provide you a red DNA source, which then you can actually also play the BT16 Dino Beamon. By pairing up together with your Seedramon, which is purple, this is how you can get into this card, and you get to play out a free trait Digimon from your trash for free. Now, guess what is a free trait? Yes, Hudiemon itself is also free. Once you play it out, you also give it rush and it can attack a player, and then that's exactly how you can do those combos again with even more aggression. Additionally, you could even play out the BT16 Pyodramon to make even more attacks. Other than Venusmon, this deck can also opt in for other level 6s as blast counterplays thanks to Shakumon with its taunting ability. With that, you're going to be able to go into either Black Wargreymon or even Cherubimon Ace for free. With Black Wargreymon, you can delete things at 7 cost or less, whether you're removing Tamers or your opponent's Digimon, and gain additional DP buffs as you raid, reboot, and block attacks. Otherwise, you can go into Cherubi Ace, which can go wide and further DP reduce your opponent's Digimon by a ton. Yugo is also another Tamer that you can include in this deck to help you boost your searching efficiency, but also help you reduce your play cost of anything that is CS trait by 2. And then if you're looking to play more of the control variant, that is where you can include Ryuji alongside with all the different colors of the Hudie trait option cards to control the opponent's board. Other than gaining memory at the starter main or using its on-play effect to give one of your Hudie traits DP reduction protection and reboot blocker, you also get to use as all turns effects whenever your Hudie trait Digimon suspend, you suspend this Tamer to use a single color CS trait option card from your hand for free. This gives you access to use Welcome Palm to delete your opponent's Digimon, Ice Archery to stun them down, Nano Machine Break to give security attack -1, Crescent Leaf to bomb deck your opponent's suspended Digimon, Comet Hammer to de-digivolve 4, or even Hudian Net Cafe just to draw 1 and then set up as delay to play a Tamer out for free later on. All of the 5-cost Hudie trait option cards have the exact same delay so that you can use their main effect once again as you attack with a CS trait Digimon, and the most ideal one that I recommend normally would be Welcome Palm, Crescent Leaf, or even Comet Hammer. Combos and how to play the all-new Hudiemon deck. Honestly, there's only really one combo that you're trying to achieve, which is the Hudie loop over and over again, which I'll show you guys just in a bit. But before that, let's talk about the mulligan hand and the opening hand that you want to see. You want to make sure that you have a BT22 CS rookie in the back ready to go at some point. Then you want to play out your Gatsumon, Mireis, and your Kuremi detective agencies to find your pieces, and you really want to set yourself up to potentially be at 4 memory some point at your turn so that you can digivolve into Hudiemon. And by digivolving into Hudiemon and still keeping turn, that is where you can start cycling and then playing out your Chitose non-stop over and over to alongside play out your level 4s and Alliance, and then DNA with your Shakumon, repeating the process again and again. In any situations that you're not able to extend your combo even further, you can always end the turn with a Venusmon just to lock your opponents out for an entire turn, and then you try to finish them off in the following. In order to begin your loop combo, like I mentioned before, you just want to have access to a total of 4 memory, or just be able to get into Hudiemon without passing turn. So we're going to have our Terriermon ready to go. We're going to have one of our CS Tamers just to gain that additional memory, and alongside with a Kuremi detective agency is already enough. We're going to push out the Terriermon. We're going to start our main, gain 1 off the Erica, and then we're going to pop the boost of Kuremi detective agency to go up to 4. Now we're then going to digivolve into Hudiemon for the 4 cost, and 1 Hudiemon is all we need to see in order to get started. Using its when digivolving effect, we're going to play out the Chitose, and then we get to minus something by 3000 DP for every Hudie Digimon that we have on the board, which Hudiemon is currently the only one. Using the on-play effect of Chitose, going to play out Angemon, which is generally the more ideal one that we're going to start off with, because the barrier is going to be important as we're going to tuck it underneath as our inherited effect later on after we DNA. Using as on-play, we're going to draw a card from our hand. We're not going to DNA Digivolve just yet. Next, we're going to swing at the opponent's security with Hudiemon. We're going to draw a card with Yokomon. And we're also going to suspend Chitose to minus something on the opponent's side by 3000 DP. In order to maximize our drawing efficiency, we're going to use the when attacking of Hudiemon to bounce the Chitose back to our hand, and then play out the exact same Chitose. And with that, we get to minus the opponent's Digimon by 6000 DP because we have 2 Hudie trait Digimon on the board. With the on-play of Chitose, we're going to play out Seedramon this time. And then we're going to use Hudiemon's Alliance to suspend the Seedramon to gain the additional security attack +1 and the extra 5k buff. We're going to draw a card with Seedramon, and because Seedramon is suspended, we can then suspend Chitose to minus another something by 3000 DP once again. This is going to be 12k, 2 checks into opponent's security, and it's really important that you survive these first 2 checks because once you lose your Hudiemon, your loop combo basically stops. But if your Hudiemon survives, this is where you're going to be guaranteed to win for the rest of it. Because what we're going to then do is DNA Digivolve the Angemon and the Hudiemon together into Shakumon. Shakumon is going to taunt one of the opponent's Digimon and de-Digivolve one of their Digimon as well, which is not going to matter a whole lot on the taunting part because we're intending to finish them off this particular turn, but de-Digivolving is always nice if we ever have to play around anything such as aces or interaction that the opponents may have on their side of the board. Now, because we DNA Digivolved, all of these inherent effects reset. So now we can use the Terriermon inherent effect to turn our Shakumon, which is a CS trait underneath, to go back into a Hudiemon. Since we have an unsuspended Hudiemon that can attack once again, we're going to do that exactly. Swing, Yokomon is going to draw us a card because we DNA Digivolve. This inherent effect has been resetted. We're going to use the when attacking of Hudiemon to return the Chitose, play out the same Chitose, and then we're going to further DP reduce another 6000 on the opponent's side of the board with Hudiemon's when attacking or when Digivolving effect, or rather on play effect because we use it during the when attacking. And then with Chitose resolving, we're going to then play out a Angemon or anything that is a level 4 once again, just to maximize your DP. On play, draw 1, and then finishing off, alliancing together with the Angemon, suspend the Chitose, minus another 3k for suspending him, and then 2 checks, 12k. At this point, if Hudiemon would run into anything that is 12k or higher, don't worry, this is where we have the Angemon with the barrier to trash our own security. As long as we have security, we can continuously protect our Hudiemon from being deleted by battle. At this point, the opponent is down to 1 security left, and there's actually one way that you can finish off immediately if you want to go for the aggression play, which you can actually DNA into Pyojamon, or if you want to be a little bit safer, if you have Shakumon once again, repeat and DNA. This time I'm going to use the Seedramon to DNA instead, since I already have the Angemon in the inherit effect. Taunt opponent's Digimon once more, de-Digivolve one once again, and because everything has been resetted, inherit effect of Terriermon, tuck the Shakumon underneath, and now we have a fresh Hudiemon to work with once again. Attack with Hudiemon, draw 1 with Yokomon, use the when attacking effect of Hudiemon to use his on-play effect, return the Chitose, play out the Chitose, minus something on the opponent's side with another 6000 DP, which there's just a ton of DP reduction this entire turn already. And then with Chitose, we're going to play out Ankylomon. This time it can again be any level 4. We're going to minus something by 2k, and then we're going to alliance together with the Ankylomon, suspend Chitose, minus another 3k. This is going to go for the remaining last check for 12k. And just like before, we can easily just finish it off by going into Pyojamon, DNAing the blue on the top since we have Angemon, together with Hudiemon, which is going to be green. And with such a massive Pyojamon stack right here, we're going to be able to suspend pretty much everything on the opponent's side of the board, and Pyojamon can go for 2 hits. Which is why I mentioned earlier you could have got into it in the previous sequence of the combo. Back to the previous sequence of the combo, let's just say if you were a Shakumon, and the opponent still has 1 security left and you're not able to finish them off, you can always just go into a Venusmon to pass them to 4 and just to lock them out, and that way you also taunted a Digimon, you de-Digivolve something, but you probably have cleared the board with all those DP reductions anyways, and if the opponent is not able to respond to this Venusmon, the next turn you can just swing with one of the Ankylomons and then finish it off with the Venusmon either way. And with that, it completes the Hudiemon loop combo, which is almost unstoppable just by the insane amount of aggression, DP reduction, and removal and draw that you have. Other than having the previous setup, I want to show you guys all the other different ways that you can get into Hudiemon without passing turn. This time we're going to have only Kurumi Detective Agency and a level 4 at the back, but specifically we're going to have the BT23 Palmon to work with. Push it out. We're going to use the delay to gain 2 memory. And then we're going to use the main effect of Palmon to tuck a Angemon, ideally just because we want barrier. This is really good to help us set up the barrier preemptively compared to the previous combo, so now we can actually safely check the opponent's security right in the get-go. By doing so, we're going to gain a memory off the Palmon because it's going to see that Angemon being tucked underneath. And here we are at 4 memory, so now we can Digivolve for 4 into Hudiemon and then begin the loop. The other method is to use the Wormmon and Erica combination together, and we can have Hudiemon either in our hand or trash to get into it, and 1 memory is also all we need, which is going to push out the Wormmon. Starter main, we're going to use Erica to gain a memory first, and then use the starter main of Wormmon to tuck the Erica underneath, so then we can Digivolve into Hudiemon from our hand or trash for reduced cost of 2, which is only going to then cost 2 memory, meaning that we'll still keep our turn, and there we go, we have a Hudiemon ready to go. This time it has an extra 1000 DP buff, which helps our alliance combos to get even stronger with higher DP, and if we ever want to, we got double alliance because of Erica on top of the regular alliance of Hudiemon as well. That way, with this setup, we technically can finish the game off even faster than before. The Twilight Angels playmat and dice is now live on the AVAULT store. Make sure to grab them along together with the collection so you get additional memory markers all together. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, whenever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing